All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Tax Tip Tuesday. Today, we've got Brian Shey from Shey's Way, and his guest today is Chris Noggle, who you all probably know. And let's kick this thing off. Gentlemen, happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Thank you, Shauna. Happy Valentine's Day to everyone out there. Little agenda again. Hopefully I've got my pink on. I'm not going to ask where Chris is wearing pink today, but I'm assuming he's got something going on there. But happy Valentine's to everyone. I'm going to try to drive this thing as much as I can. Shauna's the expert, but a little quote there: love means never having to say you're sorry. And I was in a meeting yesterday. I got introduced to this saying here. And in the essence of Valentine's Day, again, I was having a conversation with a gentleman yesterday, and somehow along the line, this all gets tied into today's topic. Now I just need to be able to play this video and we'll be off.
Just be able to click on it. There you go.
Don't say you could kiss me.
I was carried away.
I was not.
Celebrate one of the most romantic movies of all time.
What would you say if I told you I think I'm in love with you?
Love Story.
You're a happy millionaire and I'm smart and poor.
If you marry her now, I'll not give you the time of day.
Nominated for 7 Academy Awards, including Best Picture.
Jenny, I'm sorry.
Love means never having to say you're sorry.
Love.
So there's a little video, and if you don't know the movie, it's called Love Story. And somehow along the line, my conversation with a gentleman yesterday tied into that movie, and I've tied it into today's topic of transferring wealth and using the appropriate strategies to be able to do that in the most tax efficient way possible, which over the past 20 to 25 years, I'm amazed every time when I sit down and talk with clients or talk with different financial advisors, and how most people, they're using all types of different investments, thinking that they're going to minimize taxes or somehow transfer wealth across generational lines in the most tax efficient way. And then when I explain to them that that's just not the case, it becomes eye-opening. So I'm going to go back and forth a little bit and try to share a couple different slides, and then we'll get through the agenda. First and foremost, let's talk about a little monologue in regards to my way. So I shared a little bit of this with Chris the other day, but it was an abbreviated version. So let's talk about this little thing that here at the Money School we use a lot of, and that it's that product, that horrible thing that nobody wants to talk about called life insurance. And I'm going to talk about it in a way that's probably a little bit different than what you're used to hearing. And what I mean by that is this: the life insurance industry has been around for approximately 304 years. And in my opinion, Brian Shey's opinion, they've managed to mess it up for about 304 years. And what I mean by that is they manufacture products that fix almost any financial problem that a particular person could possibly have. And then they've taught the industry to bring it to the marketplace in a way that, quite frankly, has upset and or irritated society. And I'm being kind with those words, upset and irritated, with society. And then the insurance industry has scratched their head to try to figure out why more people don't use these products for tax, financial, or wealth transfer vehicles. But properly designed, properly crafted, properly funded, some of these products, life insurance, and we're going to talk about another thing called asset-based long-term care, when they're properly designed, crafted, and funded, they may be one of the greatest vehicles still left in the IRC tax code to be able to protect and transfer wealth. A little bit of the problem there is the insurance industry about 150 years ago became a sales-based industry and transferred away from being a mission-based industry. And most people do not realize that before my time, the insurance industry was mission-based. The agents were welcomed at the dining room table with families that were their clients. And then at some point in time, right around the Great Depression, most people don't realize that about 98% of all of the insurance carriers that were in existence during the Great Depression, only about 3% of those actually didn't make it. So that kind of gives you an idea of how the insurance industry is not volatile at all. It is good in any type of economy. So if an industry was viewed as a mission-based, people would be beating down the door to use these vehicles. However, society views the industry poorly, and it's all about that sleazy insurance guy who wants to sell me something that I don't need. Here's the mistake that the insurance industry has made, and because it's so large, trillions of dollars, they will never try to fix that. And here it is. The insurance industry's problem is they think they have motivated buyers. There are no motivated buyers to buy life insurance products based on the way the insurance industry markets it. You are no different than Chris and Shauna and I. And what I mean by that is you are perfectly healthy, psychologically well-adjusted human beings, which means, by definition, all of us are in denial of our mortality. Therefore, when you think about that, that's the way God built the human being. Here's an example. I'm drinking a cup of coffee. It's about my fourth one of the day. And I would not drink a cup of coffee or drink a Diet Coke or even drive a car or fly on an airplane if I were not in denial of my mortality. Denial is a phenomenal feature that God gave the human being. Because if we were not in denial, we would never get anything done. It allows us to be functioning members of society and know that we're not going to die any second. So denial, while it's extraordinarily important in regard to allowing us to live, it all makes us believe we have more time. It's why 91% of the American population does not have a will, because none of us believe we're ever going to die. It's certainly not going to happen today. And our minds work like a camera, and it's so far in the future that I can't even rationalize that. Think about it this way. The unmotivated buyer becomes a problem. And think of it this way. Let's talk about a fire analogy as I go through my monologue here. If everyone that is on today, and there may be 20, 25 people, I don't know how many people are here, but if we were all at Starbucks right now and we were having this meeting in person and the building caught on fire, and I'm the only person in the building that actually knows where the fire exit strategy is, do I have a moral and ethical responsibility to show everyone where the fire exit door is? Moral and ethical responsibility.
I
Okay.
think we do.
Yeah.
Okay. Shauna says yes. So let me just use Shauna for a second. So if I have a moral and ethical responsibility to show Shauna or everyone where the fire exit strategy is, and I lean over to Shauna in the most professional way, even on Valentine's Day, Shauna, and I whisper in your ear, hey, follow me. I know where the fire exit strategy is. Does Shauna now still share in the same moral and ethical responsibility that I had 5 minutes ago?
I think so,
I
yeah.
think so, yes, right?
The answer is yes. So if you're a member of the Money School and you've been listening to Chris Noggle for years, and we've shown you where these financial fire exit strategies are, then doesn't it mean that it is now your responsibility to go tell everyone else that has their head in the sand to go and listen and start using these strategies? And the reason I bring it that way in the fire analogy is because it's a moral and ethical responsibility. And we all know that people are continuing to run around, diving into the stock market, using qualified retirement plans that are only in the best interest of the government. And when you think about that, it's your responsibility just as much as it is mine and Shauna's and Chris to go tell the rest of the world, stop following the herd. There's a better way. And that's my way for the day today. Chris, anything on that?
No, I think you're right. There's a moral and ethical duty, to do that. I think the problem is although we're probably used to it because I'm used to just getting beat up, but when we go out, I'll just use my own personal family. When we go out knowing what we know, knowing we can change people's financial futures, knowing we can do all the things, that we teach, and we go to our closest friends and our family members, and all they do is beat us down and say, oh, that's no way, that's a scam, that's never going to work, I don't want to talk about this. And all we're trying to do is do what you said, bring that moral and ethical, responsibility that has been placed on us to the people we love. They shoot us down. So for people, some of the people posting here, Darina and Sharon, it's very difficult because you have to grow thick skin in order to basically to hang on and pass that duty, that ethical duty. And you can look at it too in the medical field. I mean, it's no different than our field. I mean, it's a broken field, but a lot of times, like, people just get ridiculed, they get beat up, and then they're just forced to conform and to just follow the herd. And I think, unfortunately, that's part of the problem is, when we get those negative people in our lives, usually the people closest to us, they often will shift us to just say, fine, and you just conform because that's the path of least resistance. So I find that that's the hardest thing for people. I really do.
I've heard like people love lines, like pretty much if you see a line, people love, like, will get in the line. And when we were just traveling to Vegas, I noticed it too. There was 2 escalators going up. So 2 escalators going in the same direction, and people got off of the tram and everybody followed the person in front of them, which was just one of the 2 escalators going up, and everybody was going up the same escalator until and the only way that was happening is if you pick your freaking head up and you see there's 2 perfectly good escalators going up. Otherwise, you're just literally following the person in front of you. And I saw that, and I tried to break away and go up the other one just to try to, let people know there was another way. But I do think we also have to, we can't just preach all the time. Sometimes we have to lead by example. So one of the best things you can do is also just do this for yourself and then lead that way too, but also keep your eyes up so you can just see what's going on around you.
Right.
Yeah.
I got an interesting thing, not to take anything away from where we're at, but it's the perfect story. So there's this guy, Spike Jones. Okay. And, most of you would never know who Spike Jones is, but anybody that was in the skateboard industry knows exactly who Spike Jones is. So Spike Jones in his early days was just a kid who had a camera, started taking film and start taking photos, and he was a likable guy, just a skateboard kid. And then he started doing, these films for skateboarders, but he came at it with a completely different light. He made it fun. He brought the fun to skateboarding. Instead of showing like the things that most people thought a video or a photo should be, he switched it around and said, this is just me hanging with my friends, just having fun. This is just our lifestyle, our culture. And then it took off, and it took off because people related to it, because there was a story, there was a culture, there was a community, and people just went that direction. Now, long story short, Spike Jones went on to be one of the most prolific, video producers and movie producers out there. He's done so many movies. Many of you have seen, from Where the Stranger, oh my God, why am I getting it wrong? The Wild Things, where the Wild Things Are. He did that. He did the Beastie Boy videos. I mean, he's world famous today. But the one thing that's unique about Spike Jones is he never, ever, with all of his fame, all the tens of millions of dollars he's made, he never strayed from his roots, his initial roots, that calling, right? That one thing that he felt was his calling, and that was the skateboard. So now let's transition to the financial world. I spent 16 years as an advisor, wearing a suit and a tie every single day. I got in line. I conformed to what they told me to sell, what they told me to do, how they told me to sell it, what I was supposed to do, every rebuttal. And I just did that until one day I just went back and I just saw the truth, and I went on a different path. And I think there's a lot that needs to be said about that with the financial world. It's broken. We can't ever fix it. But the one thing we can do is we can then go out there and tell the truth, because we have a moral and ethical duty to tell the truth about what it is. Now, the people that get in line to learn the truth, that's up to them. And that's a hard decision to make that change. But I will vow, the one thing we're doing here is we're bringing that. I almost refuse to wear a suit anymore. When I go on stage, even if they want me to wear a suit, I'm going to fight it. And it's not because I'm trying to be that guy. It's just because I'm trying to stay true to myself and who I am and what I believe in. And if people need somebody in a suit to take financial advice because that's just the conditioning they've had their whole life, then they're going to just have to go that normal conformity route. I kind of went off on it, but like, I just think this whole show and all the stuff that we're doing is literally that moral and ethical duty that we feel we have. And it doesn't have to conform with what society tells us or what the industry tells us we need to do, which would, you know, in all intents and purposes, be sell term insurance, buy term and invest the difference. That's what the industry tells people to do. Buy IULs, buy term insurance. And that is not what is that moral and ethical duty for us to do what's right by our clients. Sorry, I went long on that.
No, and Chris, that was a good segue. And actually, Sharon put a little chat in there, and she gave me the other segue to the pivot. So I'm gonna come back and share my screen just as a talking point. And Sharon wrote, I'm working on my first IBC. She didn't use the word policy, but I'll just say I'm working on my first IBC policy. And her CPA thinks that she's nuts to move an IRA to a self-directed IRA. And again, that's the herd. Everyone thinks you're nuts. Everyone questions what you're doing. Everyone thinks they know better than you know. When you think about it, everyone continues to follow the herd. One of the things that has come up here in week number 2, and obviously Chris and I have talked a lot about this. I want to be very clear here when we're talking about life protection and that thing called life insurance. Okay, I put three things up here under life protection. I put IBC. Obviously, that's everything that Chris, the other money mentors, everything at the money school. We talk a lot about IBC and the infinite banking concept and using life insurance policies as a bank and becoming your own bank. Think about IBC. The next thing I put there was a LERP, and then I just put straight protection. And I want to be very clear here. All three of those are different roads, okay? And just think about it as being a road. If you're looking in your own life to use an infinite banking concept policy or bank on yourself, then we have a team that specializes in nothing but that. That doesn't mean you can't come to me and say, hey, I'm wanting to do an IBC policy. That's fine. I'm going to get the right money mentors. I'm going to get the right people. And we have a complete team that does that. So there's going to be multiple people that are working with you as a person that is looking to use a policy as a banking policy. Okay. And that may be, Freeway 101. Then I put LERP. Okay. If you've read the book, The Power of Zero, which is my book of the month, I'm going to try to do that every month and just introduce one book per month for you guys to start looking at. And if you're thinking about the LERP or a life insurance retirement plan, that is more along the lines of what I've spent 25 years utilizing with my personal relationships and professional relationships all over the country. And the LERP, it's not a trademark term. It came out of the book Power of Zero. David McKnight wrote the book. And quite frankly, in the Power of Zero, he really doesn't talk about the product. And then he uses not only whole life, but he does talk about that thing called IUL. And I'm not a big fan. But if you're looking to use a life insurance retirement plan, that is a different structure than an infinite banking concept policy or be your own bank policy. So I just want to be very, very clear there that we utilize both of those. And the good part about them is both of them are assets. They are not expenses. They sit on the balance sheet in the right place. And it is an asset in your overall portfolio allocation. And then thirdly, you may be in a situation in your life for whatever reason that you may just need straight protection. And maybe you're going into debt. Maybe your bank needs the leverage. Maybe you need a couple $1 million worth of term protection to collateralize a loan with the bank. Maybe you're, younger, married, have young kids, whatever it may be. But I also want you to understand that all of the term protection that is going to be used, at least through this show that we're going to talk about, is all convertible to the other two. So again, I include it to be an asset. So I just want to introduce that to you, make sure that there are defined lines and there's not a gray area regarding IBC, LERP, or straight protection. And then the last thing we're going to talk about today is this thing out there that if I put 100 people in the room, 98 of them have never heard of. So stay tuned. We're going to talk a lot about the asset-based long-term care protection, and it's a solution to wealth transfer and it has the tax implications to stand behind it so you can use it as a tax strategy. So want to be very clear there. I'm going to stop sharing so I can continue to look at my slides, and we'll go from there. Hopefully we're looking at a slide that has Avon Skin So Soft on it. And
Yes.
it's a major part of my my presentation today. So I have a number of presentations that I use, and I grabbed this slide and pulled it over here because I figured I would involve the chat room here a little bit if I can figure out how to move things around here. And here's the question. What does Avon Skin So Soft have to do with anything? Here's the question. Who do you believe is the #1 consumers of this product in the world? Give me an age group and maybe a gender. It's Valentine's Day. Maybe you could give this as a gift.
I feel like, is this a trick question? You'd think it was, like middle age.
Shauna, you can throw it out there. I think you can chat. I'm still waiting to see some chats. Middle-aged women, I got one. Women age 40 to 60. Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna say like 55 female.
Okay, 50, 55, 30 plus men. Okay, there's an interesting one from Dorina. Come on, a couple more. I'm gonna wait for a couple more.
I feel like, what if it's like the children of these women? You know what I mean? Like, what if it's actually like 18-year-old?
Okay, women 50 to 75. Okay, 21. Okay. Well, the reason that this makes today's conversation is no different why I use it in a number of other areas. The company Avon manufactures and invented this product almost 40 years ago. And when they went to the whiteboard, about the last thing in the world they thought about doing is creating a product that men between the ages of 40 and 60 would end up buying. And not only do they buy it, but they buy it by the buckets. The #1 consumers of this product are men between the ages of 40 and 60. And the reason that I talk about it is this. It's an analogy. The CPA that Sharon was just talking about with his head in the sand can never rationalize using anything besides maybe, hey, make sure you put your $6,500 in your traditional IRA at the end of the year to get that tax write-off. Avon invented this product and men buy it, and they buy it by the buckets. Why? And here's the answer. It may be the #1 greatest mosquito repellent ever invented.
Knew that was coming.
So hunters buy this stuff by the buckets, and they've been buying it for decades. All right. Avon didn't go to the whiteboard to create a product for a bunch of men to use to keep mosquitoes off of them, but that's exactly what happened. And the reason that I use it as an analogy in my conversations is this. The insurance industry did not invent life insurance or asset-based long-term care or any other product to be a tax shelter. And they really, if you think about everything that the money schools taught you, Nelson Nash stumbled across using mutual dividend paying whole life insurance as a bank, and the insurance industry really didn't invent it for that reason, but it happens to work incredibly well. So that's why I use that as an analogy when you're thinking about using these products. And I saw somebody in the chat put down the dealing with family or talking with family, and hopefully at the end of my presentation today, you'll have maybe a couple different ideas on how to talk to family and bring these things up, because there's nothing more important than, again, using our moral and ethical responsibilities to point people in a different direction. Keep that in mind, and maybe even use the Avon Skin So Soft analogy to try to get people to turn their heads inside out, because that's what we do here. We try to get you to turn your head inside out and look at something a little bit differently. And maybe you've heard about it, and maybe you haven't, and maybe it takes 2 or 3 times. We're not saying that it doesn't, but definitely, as Shauna mentioned, don't take the escalator that everybody's, going in the same direction, because it's not going to get you where you want it to be.
Your real estate business lives and dies by the network and the connections that you make. I mean, after all, your network, well, it's your net worth. That's what you always heard, right? If that's an area where you desire improvement, well, Private Money Club, it's for you. PMC saves you precious time and money by bringing the real estate world, well, right to you, right in the palm of your hand. So get in on the action, like so many others have, by going to privatemoneyclub.com and sign up.
Let me keep going here a little bit and talk a little bit about a couple myths. One of the reasons that we want to talk about not only IBC and life insurance retirement plan policies, one of the things we also want to talk about, and I'm moving a couple screens around, so give me a second here, is this thing out there called asset-based long-term care. And as I mentioned before, it's rare that people have ever heard of it. So let me beat up on the insurance industry again for just a second. The life insurance industry manufactured long-term care and nobody wants to talk about it, okay? And they built the product about somewhere between 30 and 40 years ago. And quite frankly, think about it, 30 to 40 years ago, the actuarials, those really statistically smart people, okay, that like sitting in a cubicle, they build these products. And the actuarials missed the mark 30, 40 years ago. They built a product not understanding really what was going to transpire over the next 30, 40 years. Medical advancements, people are living longer. You know, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, they worked till they were 55, 57, 58, 60. They retired and they died 5 or 6 years later. Now people are working into their 60s and even their 70s, and then they're retiring, and then they're living 20 or 30 years. Okay, so the industry just missed the target. Okay, so therefore, nobody wants to talk about these products because I call it the dinosaurs of long-term care, had no tax efficiency. They had no protection component, meaning life insurance to it. And the only person that really won in the gambling battle there or at the table was the insurance carrier. People bought a product, they paid their premiums in for 10 or 20 or 30 years. There was no cash value. There was no life insurance to it. And if they never used it, the insurance company got all the money and the family got nothing. Well, you know, where do you sign up for one of those, right? You're just beating down the door to go buy one, right? So that's not what we're talking about. Asset-based long-term care is completely different. And when I say that, what I mean by that is no matter what happens, someone's getting the money. You don't buy long-term care to get rich. You buy this strategy and you use this strategy to keep from becoming poor. Here's the question that leads directly into this conversation with anyone that you want to talk to in the world. And here's the question. Do you believe you're ever going to spend through your estate? So your parents, your grandparents, if you're a little bit elderly, that's the question. That's my initial question. Do you believe you're going to spend through your estate? Okay. And for the most part, and I see a couple people putting things in the chat, for the most part, people go, nope, there's no way I'm ever going to spend through my estate. And I go, you know what, Chris, I agree with you. You're probably never going to spend through your estate with the exception of one thing. And that is either if you and or your spouse have a catastrophic health event that does not kill you. Because you can blow through $3, $5, $6, $10 million in a very short period of time. So therefore, we use this strategy with taxes in mind to protect against ever spending through your estate. And if you never use it, no matter what, someone's getting the money. Okay? Questions on any of that? Chris, do I need to dive into that any deeper?
No, I don't think so. I mean, it's the reality of the situation. I think the one thing that a lot of people don't think is that will ever happen to them. A lot of us just think that we just die, you know, like, hey, I'm not going to need long-term care. I'm just going to die. Or I used to love this one, you know, well, just pull the plug on me. Like, there's no sense in that. Just pull the plug. Well, yeah, great. The laws don't allow for that either. And I've seen this happen twice in my own family. And it's pretty sick how the whole thing works.
So along those lines, and I appreciate that, Ryan Brandon, at what age should you look into this protection? It's a great question from a great guy that I've known for a number of years. And I can tell you, here's the answer. And I guess, am I allowed to use first name? So Ryan's asking this question. You know, at what age should you look into this protection? I'll give you my own personal example. I'm 52. My wife and I bought our policy when I was 45. Okay, because I wanted to be done in 10 years. So this is a strategy, and I'm going to bring up a small just illustration to show, kind of picture says 1,000 words, right? So the answer there is, my answer is between the ages of 45 and 60, depending on your financial situation. That's really when you start want to begin looking at this. This is a product, okay? And hear me on this. Besides the question of, do you believe you're ever going to spend through your estate? Then here's the next couple questions. If you're looking at a strategy like this, do you want a strategy where the amount of your funding can increase over time? And that's a yes or no question for you to answer to yourself. Do you want a strategy that the amount of your funding can change over time? Or do you want it to be fixed and guaranteed to never change? There's a question. Number two, do you want to fund a strategy like this where you could possibly run out of money? Yes or no? And Chris, I appreciate you answering some of the chats as I move things around. So when you start thinking about those questions, because this becomes extraordinarily easy, because there's only one company in the United States that offers a strategy that I'm talking about, that can look you in the eye and say, okay, your numbers are never going to change and you're never going to run out of money. And I'll get into the tax implications, or the not really implications, but the tax strategy here in a minute. Are my parents too late in their early 70s? The answer is no. The young part is 35. You can't be below 35 and use this strategy, and you can't be above the age of 85 and use this strategy. So I'm going to share my screen, and this is just an analogy for me to explain how the strategy works. Okay, and then we can answer some questions here in a minute. My man Felix, you better believe it, buddy. So my man Ryan's going to be happy because he is a member of the One America family. So as I share my screen, I will let you know, One America, the company out of Indianapolis, Indiana, is the pioneer of this strategy. They were way above or way ahead of the game. They created this product. They patented the product almost 32 years ago, I believe. Okay. So the way that asset care works, again, it is not the dinosaur of long-term care. And we can have one-on-one conversations if you want about this, but you can't mess this strategy up because it's just too simple. So what I've done here is I just grabbed a couple people. I put John and Jane Doe in, and I manufactured a couple ages of 52 and 58 because this is how the product works. Here's the patent. One, they take a husband and wife and put them on one policy. Okay. There's a few other carriers that do it. Lincoln Financial's one. However, then because there is a husband and wife on one product or one strategy or one policy, then the underwriting is significantly different because they're underwriting two lives. Everything about this is guaranteed. Why can I say that? Because the foundation is a whole life insurance policy, which means it's guaranteed. The other thing is, One America is the only carrier in the United States of America that pays an unlimited lifetime benefit. No one else does it. You can get a 3-year benefit. You can get a 5-year benefit. Lincoln Financial provides a 7-year benefit. One America, again, I'm going to say it, they're the only carrier in the United States of America that pays an unlimited lifetime benefit. No one else does it. Here's how this works. If I take John and Jane Doe, and I'm just going to throw you out a number. I'm going to say the national average of somebody that needs care is about $4,800 a month. Okay. This is a $7,000 monthly benefit. It is for the husband and the wife. And this, if I highlight, do you guys see that, Chris? So on this situation, this is a $233,000 life insurance policy, whole life guaranteed. Meaning if John and Jane Doe never use this, then $233,000 is going to transfer to their kids and or their estate. If either one of them use it, and they each have a $7,000 monthly benefit or $14,000 monthly benefit as a couple, the first $233,000 that they use will be the life insurance. So if either one of them went under a claim, they're getting $84,000 a year per individual, then they will spend down the life insurance first. If both of them or one of them ever stay under claim, then it kicks into the continuation of benefits, which is unlimited. It never stops paying. This is not a strategy that you use to become rich. It's a strategy to keep from becoming poor. Do you believe you're ever going to spend through your estate? This is about transferring risk to an insurance carrier. You're not going to transfer 100% of the risk, but you want to transfer some of it. From a tax strategy standpoint, what you may not know is, well, what you do know and what you don't know. Life insurance premiums are not tax deductible. However, long-term care premiums are. Therefore, in this area right here, it's showing you that One America breaks it in two so you can deduct the long-term care part with your CPA. You look at this strategy over a 20-year period, which is how most of the designs are. We design them for a 20-year period. So in this situation, John and Jane Doe are going to pay 12 grand a year for 20 years. Okay, do the math, it's 240 grand. I put everything into upside potential, downside risk. Upside potential, they get $84,000 per year per person, unlimited. So the upside potential could be millions because you don't know how long they're going to need it. The downside risk is simple. They put 240 in year 20. If they called up and said, we don't want this anymore, then they get $131,000 back. So over a 20-year period, it costs them about 110 grand. If they never use it, they give the insurance carrier 240 and their estate gets 233. That's their downside risk, in my humble opinion. What about just one parent just turned 72? No problem. If you have one parent only, that can be a single policy. Does this work in addition to Medicaid asset shielding trust? Yes, is the answer to that in its simple, most easiest fashion. Let me answer a couple questions there. From a underwriting standpoint, okay, no different. There's no reason to look at, even though I wanted to share an illustration today to explain the concept. The underwriting part of here is you go through underwriting, find out whether or not you qualify for the right amount, for the right type of policy, and then the design is exactly how it will be done. So let me go back and talk a little bit about the tax strategy behind this. And this may be appealing for a couple other people that are asking questions about parents and or grandparents. Here's the other part of the patent for this product. One America also patented a product this to be able to use with qualified money. Okay, specifically, let's just talk about IRA or 401k plans. There, again, I've talked about, depending on whose numbers, there's around $38 trillion wrapped up in 401k plans in this country. There's a tremendous amount of people in this country that have large amount of assets inside qualified plans where they're never going to use them. So IRA, 401k plan. So anyone that is above the age of 59 and a half, we want to make sure that we don't give tax advice where people are going to end up having to pay a 10% penalty. Get with your CPA, but if you're over the age of 59 and a half and you don't need your IRA money, you can transfer IRA money into an asset-based long-term care policy. And what you're doing there is you're transferring qualified taxable money into an unlimited tax-free environment. I'll give you an example. You could use $150,000 in an IRA, move it over to an asset-based long-term care policy. You're taking $150,000 in a taxable environment out of one pocket, and you're leveraging that into unlimited lifetime tax-free long-term care benefits, not only for a husband, but also the spouse. You can use it if you're single, but again, you want to talk to people over the age of 59 and a half. Questions on it, Andy. When transferring IRA to long-term care, do you still have to pay the taxes on the IRA distribution? Andy, your answer is yes. There's no free lunch. However, not all up front. So let's just make the math easy. Let's say you transfer 200 grand and you're in a 20% tax bracket. If you did that in an IRA and just took a $200,000 distribution, 20% on 200 grand is $24,000. You would have to pay the 24 grand that year. However, by moving it into asset-based long-term care, you pay the taxes on the annual distribution, which, depending on how the policy is structured, will be over a 20-year period. So it would be 200 grand transfer over a 20-year period. That's $10,000 dripped off per year. And if you were in a 20% tax bracket, you'd pay the $2,000. So instead of all of it up front, it gets basically distributed over a 20-year period. Really good question. Too bad I like free lunches. Andy, if I could design that one, that'd be like designing a life insurance policy where we can use IRA to fund it. But when you look at the taxes, depending on your individual situation, it is much different. Let me take a minute to tell Shauna and Chris, I think they've got to run, but happy Valentine's Day to you guys. In essence of my video that I started with, I kind of wanted to close out on a little bit of that conversation, where that movie, if you haven't seen it, it was came out in 1970, so a little bit before some of our times, including me, thank goodness. But it was the tale of actually two students that met at Harvard University. And the reason that I brought it up today on Valentine's Day with a couple different things and tied it into this. Despite the fact that they came from different backgrounds, Oliver was a law student and came from a wealthy family, and Jenny was an art major from a modest working class family, and they were instantly drawn to each other, obviously in a love romance. But Oliver's dad doesn't approve of the union and severs all ties with the couple, including much needed financial support. As newlyweds, they struggle to make ends meet, and when the couple tries to find out why Jenny is having difficulty conceiving, they discover that she's actually terminally ill. Beside himself with grief, Oliver finds himself in dire financial straits from the staggering hospital bills that have accrued during Jenny's illness. Despite the fact that they come from different backgrounds, one from wealth, one from modest, and the father of Oliver cuts the family off. Swallowing his pride, he goes back to his father and asks for help, but he is too proud to tell his father that Jenny's illness is the reason that he needs the money. As I'm reading this, what I want you to think about is how you go and approach family members and other people in regards to this type of strategy, because from a tax standpoint, it makes all of the sense. One of the last scenes of the movie is set in the hospital, where Jenny's final hours with Oliver by her side. And his father discovers why his son really needed the financial help in regards to borrowing the money, and immediately heads to the hospital. Why he only finds that Jenny has passed away by the time that he arrives. When Oliver's father apologizes to his son for his behavior, Oliver responds with the epic line based on something that Jenny had said, which I started today's conversation off, which was, love means never having to say that you're sorry. Not just around Valentine's Day, by the way, but make sure and you remember our moral and ethical responsibility to talk to our family members and the people who we care about in our own lives. Because if you fail to have that conversation, people fail to take action. It's not because they don't love their families. It has to do with the fact that all of us are in denial of our mortality. I will leave you today with this. It's a quote from Charles Lindbergh, who said, and this is an interesting one, isn't it strange that we talk least about the things we think about most? And think about the things that we think about, which are money, wealth, our family, our spouses, our children, and obviously we would do anything within our power to make sure that those people's future were guaranteed. So as I leave you today with that area on Valentine's Day, continue to care most about your family and make responsible decisions to take care of the future survival of the people who mean the most to you. And again, the recording will be out on Sunday. And appreciate you guys being here today on Valentine's Day. Have a great one.
All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. We're putting up tons of them, but I think if you like this one, you'll probably like that video as well. Not only that, I've got a book that I created, Mapping Out the Millionaire Mystery, where we actually show you what the wealthy do in the game they play with money. I want you to have that for free. And if you want to know about all my new videos coming up, click that alert button. Actually, smash that alert button, and you'll be notified every time we put a new video. So we'll see you on the next episode.